PropertyLimBrothers is here today in District 14 at Lorong 27 Geylang. Today we are bringing you to Strata-titled commercial shop house that is right beside Aljunied MRT station. If you are looking for something with great visibility and lots of footfall, we think you're gonna love this unit. So now let's head back to the studio where I'll share more in depth. Let's go! We are located in the city fringe at District 14 along Lorong 27 Geylang that is accessible by car via Sims Avenue Road. We are less than a 2-minute walk away from Aljunied MRT station on the east-west line. 3 stops down will bring you to Bugis MRT station where you can hop onto the downtown line. 4 stops down will take you to City Hall MRT station where you can change to the north-south line, and 1 stop to the other direction will bring you to Paya Lebar MRT station where you have the Circle Line. We're surrounded by a good mix of public and private residentials, schools, offices, commercial spaces, as well as F&B establishments. So you can expect to have a good volume of traffic and footfall throughout the day. So just some quick facts about the property. This land is zoned as residential with commercial on the first floor. So the second and third stories are residential units, whereas our unit on the ground floor is zoned commercial. And because this is a strata-titled shop house, you then get to own a commercial space without having to purchase the entire shop house. Our unit is freehold in nature, standing at a good size of 1066 square feet, making it a great investment to hold on to for generations to come. This is a fitted and renovated unit currently used as a sports therapy establishment. As you can see, this area is very spacious in size, and the unit is 6.4 meters in width, 12.6 meters in depth, and 2.7 meters in height. Over here is where you have your reception and sitting area. Floorings are already done up in vinyl. You also have cove light downlights and cassette air cons already installed. So coming into the back, over on my left is where you have the hot bed therapy room, and over here is also where you have some lockers already fitted in. You also have 2 shower facility rooms as well as 1 WC. A pantry has also been installed for you, and over at the end is where you have another door leading to the back. And here is where you have your secondary pantry area with top and bottom cabinetries already fitted. Over here is where you have some shelvings, and at the back is where you have another WC. So now let's head back to the studio where I'll share more in-depth analysis with you. Now if you were to take a look at the 3 main property zonings in Singapore, they are namely residential, commercial and industrial properties. What makes commercial properties unique is that there is no seller stamp duty tagged onto commercial properties, unlike residential and industrial. This essentially means that you can buy a commercial property today and sell it the very next day without incurring any seller stamp duty, therefore allowing you a lot of flexibility in terms of your property investment plans, whether you choose to offload this property in the short run or hold it for years to come. Furthermore, the buyer's stamp duty for commercial properties is fixed at 3% of the purchase price minus $5,400. What this means is that no matter the purchase price, the stamp duty will always be fixed. Another key thing to note is that there is no additional buyer's stamp duty applicable should you purchase this unit under company or personal name, even though you already own a residential property. ABSD is only applicable if you are purchasing a shop house with a residential component. Therefore, our unit, being the commercial component in the strata-titled shop house, has a fixed buyer's stamp duty of 3% and will not incur any seller stamp duty or additional buyer's stamp duty. So what this means to you as an investor is that you get to achieve a higher ROI as compared to investing into residential properties, as there is a lower tax cost associated to acquiring a commercial property for investment. Let's break down the shophouse category into 3 main types. The first type being shophouses with commercial zoning on the first level and residential zoning on the upper levels. Second type being a mix of commercial and residential throughout the shophouse. And the third type, which is your full commercial shophouse. So for the first 2 types of shophouses, there is a residential component that's tagged to the shophouse. And what will happen is that if you buy this as a subsequent property, while still holding onto your first residential property, you will then be levied for the additional buyer's stamp duty on the residential component. For the third category, which is a full commercial shophouse, there is no ABSD nor SSD applicable to this purchase. You'll also be paying a standard buyer's stamp duty of 3% minus $5,000 $5,400. However, you'll be looking at a quantum of at least $10 million and above, as this category is considered to be the cream of the crop in terms of shophouses. Our unit, even though it belongs to the first category, but because we are strata-titled, meaning you only buy into the commercial component of the whole shophouse, we are then similar to the full commercial status shophouses, as there is no residential component tagged onto the purchase. And in terms of price quantum, we are also leaning towards a more palatable side of $3 million, therefore appealing to a wider range of audiences should you choose to exit in the future. If we were to compare the performance of freehold ground floor strata shophouses in the core central region, the current asking is already threading around 4,005 to 4,007 PSF. Therefore, you will be looking at an overall price quantum of around $5 million for something of a similar size to ours. And if we were to take a look at the availability of similar units around the Geylang precinct itself, there are only 2 other units up for sale. These units are asking at $2.4 and $2.6 million. However, these units are located right at the tail end of Sims Avenue, which is about an 11-minute walk away from the MRT station. Our unit that is asking at an overall quantum of $3 million with a PSF of $2,814. It is strategically located right beside Aljunied MRT station and is one of the rare finds that is very hard to come by, as units that are so close to the MRT station are not commonly up for sale. If we take a look at the freehold strata retail spaces in Geylang, units in Pavilion Square are asking between $550,000 to $2.23 million, standing at 100 to 337 square feet, which translates to a PSF of $4,000 odd to $11,000 odd. Next, we have Le Regal asking between $295,000 to $2 million, standing at 75 to 269 square feet, which translates to a PSF of $3,000 odd to $7,000 odd. And lastly, Treasures at G19 asking at $1 million, standing at 323 square feet, translating to a PSF of $3,000 odd. These retail units are smaller in size and therefore commanding a higher PSF. Just earlier this year, a unit at Jalan Besar Plaza was sold at $3.5 million at 1,356 square feet, which translates to a PSF of $2,581. A unit at Soho Life was sold at $1.2 million at 355 square feet with a PSF of $3,378. The Sunflower transacted at $8.5 million at 3,401 square feet with a PSF of $2,499. Geylang Square transacted at $464,000 at 161 square feet, translating to a PSF of $2,874. And lastly, a unit at Malaysia sold at $540,000 at 129 square feet with a PSF of $4,181. Our unit is asking at $2,800 odd PSF, therefore making it well within the surrounding past transactions. Now let's break down some numbers for our unit here at Lorong 27 Geylang. The asking price for our unit is at $3 million negotiable. It is currently owned under a non-GST registered entity, thus GST is not applicable for our unit. Your buyer's stamp duty at a rate of 3% minus $5,400 will come up to $84,600. Assuming you are taking a loan of 70% LTV, your down payment would then amount to $900,000. That will bring your total initial cash outlay to approximately to be at $984,000 with a total loan amount of $2.1 million. If you are looking to purchase a commercial property for your own business use, the maximum LTV attainable is at 80% with a loan tenure of 30 years. Whereas if you are purchasing for investment purposes, regardless of whether you are purchasing under a business or individual, the maximum LTV is at 70% with a loan tenure of 25 years. Most banks are currently offering a floating rate of 3 months SORA plus 1% for both business and investment use. Assuming you purchase this property for investment at the asking of $3 million with an LTV of 70%, which makes up $2.1 million, at an interest rate of 3% over 25 years, your monthly repayment would then amount to $9,958. The rental income that you would be collecting can then help with financing your loan. As an investor, you may be wondering, why should I get a commercial property instead of getting a second residential property? Let's work out the numbers for you. Assuming you're a Singapore citizen purchasing a second private residential property at the same asking price of $3 million, And because you have an existing mortgage loan for your first residential property, the maximum LTV you can attain is 45%. That will bring your total down payment to be at 55%, which can then be broken down into two portions, 25% in cash and 30% in cash or CPF. On top of that, you also need to factor in your buyer's stamp duty of 4% minus $15,400 and additional buyer's stamp duty at 17%.
Your total initial cash outlay will then amount to $2.264 million. At a fixed interest rate of 3% over 30 years, your monthly mortgage will then amount to $5,692.
Comparing to getting our commercial unit, the total cash outlay is significantly lesser
with a difference of $1.28 million.
As mentioned earlier, if you were to take up a commercial loan and buying for investment, you will then be able to attain a maximum LTV of 70%. And because you are loaning a higher amount at a shorter tenure, your monthly repayment will then be higher. However, unlike getting a second residential property, there is no ABSD or SSD applicable to buying a commercial unit. If we were to factor in a conservative growth rate of 2% per annum over 10 years, your total rental income collected would then amount to $777,000.
Minus off your total interest paid at $537,000, plus your principal at 2% growth rate at $725,000, plus your initial equity at 2% growth rate at $1.097 million, divided by the total cost of equity, which consists of the principal paid for 10 years plus your initial down payment. Your ROI will then come up to 32% after 10 years.
Because we're so conveniently located right next to Aljunied MRT station, you can expect a high rental demand. As our unit is freehold in nature, you can then rent it out long-term or choose to renew the tenancy at a higher rental price. Investing in this unit provides longevity in terms of rental income as it is freehold in status. If we take a look at the surrounding rental performance transacted from 2021 to date, the median range is between $4.84 to $20.25 per square foot per month. So if you take our unit size at 1,066 square feet and multiply by the transacted median rental, you can then potentially fetch a rental income per month ranging from $5,000 to $21,000. This of course depends on the tenant's profile and type of usage subject to URA's approval for change of use. The current approved usages right now are retail shops and takeaway food shops with no dine-in, with some variations such as childcare centres, community use, commercial school, gym and fitness centres, laundromat, massage and spa establishments, medical clinics, offices, restaurants or even a pet shop can be changed subject to URA's approval. So if you are planning for any of such uses, do submit this for an in-principle approval to URA. Now moving on to the Masterplan developments that will be happening around the area. Firstly, we have the Paya Lebar Airbase transformation that will take place from 2030 onwards. So what is going to happen is that the airbase will be relocated to Changi East, and that means about 800 hectares of land would then be free up for redevelopment. And that is the equivalent of about 5 times the size of the current Toa Payoh township. In place of the airbase, there will be new public and residential homes, educational institutions, offices, commercial and industrial spaces. We also have the master plan change in zoning right here in Geylang. So what's interesting is that the URA has demarcated in one of its master plans that the red light district, which is at the far left corner of Geylang, will be converted into a commercial zoning. This means that should there be any en bloc happening in that area, the new status of properties there will be turned into a commercial one. And what this means to you as a buyer is that the rejuvenation happening in our surrounding will then translate to better economic activity, which can then potentially increase rentability and could also mean a better potential market upside. Then in Geylang typically has a plot ratio of 2.8, which has an allowable building height of 36 stories. However, buildings in Geylang are only built up to 8 stories due to the height restriction of the flight paths for Paya Lebar Airbase. And because Paya Lebar Airbase will be relocating in 2030, this restriction will then be lifted. Therefore, you can expect to see a lot of rejuvenation happening in Geylang as developers are starting to snap up land via collective sales. Not only is our unit in a prime location, as we are just right beside the MRT station, but it is also sitting on a plot ratio of 3.0, which has an allowable building height of more than 36 stories. So this gives us an advantage in terms of Enbloc Potential over the more commonly seen plot ratio of 2.8 in Geylang. I hope this video has helped you better understand the numbers and why it makes sense as an investor buying into this rare freehold strata-titled commercial shophouse on the ground floor that is just right beside Aljunied MRT station
at a quantum of $3 million.
Do contact our listing team if you are interested to arrange a physical viewing of this unit. The contact details are below. And of course, if you enjoyed this video tour, do hit the like and subscribe buttons on our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok channels for more content. My name is Tabitha, PropertyLimBrothers, always happy to show you the place. Editor, this one cannot cut out anything. This one very important. I'm not going to say the numbers. That one is the editor, please put the numbers. Yeah, correct. Editor, please put exact number. Thank you. Shophouses. Oh my god. Land in Geylang typically and vanish. Can la.